So, Kurt, what did you think when the opportunity was handed to you to kind of direct this Stephen King adaptation, which is so beloved? There's been so many sequels to the original Children of the Corn. So, when you had this opportunity, what was going through your mind?
Well, the first thing that went through my mind was, oh, children, corn, how hard could it be? That was the first thing that went through my mind. And that was the first of many wrong things, completely diametrically wrong things that went through my mind. And then, of course, we added the third C, which is COVID on top of that, because we started shooting in April 2020. And we were the only film shooting on Earth at that time. So we take the
Yeah, I
children, we
remember
take
that.
corn,
Yeah.
and we take COVID, and so that was, but also to really answer your question, what was going through my mind was, wow, this is a great opportunity because I haven't seen a lot of the movies in between, and I suspect that they were made for reasons other than artistic love of the material. I think they may have, but I don't know. I haven't seen them, so I don't want to judge them. But I'm going back to the original, short story that Stephen King wrote. And I thought, this is such a malleable concept, that is like many classic stories can be told over and over again through the lens of a different generation. The first one was kind of religious fanatics, but that wouldn't play today, right? People are like, what? Kids, but kids as, in some senses, mouthpieces for ecological disaster that the adults are bringing on. That made sense to me. And it was called Children of the Corn. And so it made perfect sense to me. So that's what I thought. I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity. And Stephen King, obviously, the only reason these things get made is because of Stephen King on a certain level, because all people, every movie made now is a remake or a reboot or a sequel or based on a comic book. So, there's a practical aspect to it as well. But, I was always a tremendous fan of the concept, a fan of the title. And I saw an opportunity to retell it in a different way. And one more thing I'll say is that I don't think any of the intervening movies or even the first movie was told through the point of view or the eyes of the children. And I think they're all told from the point of view of the adults. And I'm like, there's a big opportunity to tell it from the point of view of the actual victims here, because you really can't tell me that adults are being victimized by children, when really I think the children are just reacting to the victimization that they've received from adults screwing up their world. Even in the first movie, when they were religious fanatics, the kids thought that the adults were morally corrupt, and they were. So, the first people who shot fired the first shot in the war were always the adults.
And Kate, you got to be the main kid, the main conductor of it all. And with you and Elena working together, Elena's perfect in everything that she does. So it had to be amazing to watch her act as well. And you know what? When I watched this, I was also a kid when I was watching the originals, and there was just so much allegory and metaphors I didn't pick up on, like when I was watching this one. It's mankind versus nature and nature fighting back, and the kids on the new generation. So how was that like for you being the main kid in all of this as well?
Well, some people, I don't even know how to explain it. I didn't feel as pressured as people might think I might have been, because as an 11-year-old at the time, I don't have that much, knowledge on, previous Children of the Corn movies, and I wasn't quite sure what I was expecting. But when I read the script, I kind of understood what the whole message was, and I didn't feel pressured to like conform to a character that's already been created before, because the way Kurt and I were able to work together to basically create Eden from the ground up and her whole story, like day by day, it really helped to make her the best that she could be. And Elaine is amazing. Oh, it was so great working with her, because we got to, bounce off each other, and the chemistry, we got to spend a lot of time together. So I feel like, when we had the chance, we just ad-lib something and we just go with it because it felt natural. And I feel like we were able to try and take this fresh new take and make it something interesting.
And Kurt, how was the casting process for you? with Children of the Corn because there's so many kid actors you got to cast, right? And not only that, the adults of the town. So this kind of had to be a long process, right?
Yeah, it was a scary process too, because casting kids is scary because kids notoriously, when you put them in a movie, they're kids. They can't act usually. I mean, usually they're, again, skylarks and they're staring off in space. They're not focused, and they're not trained actors. I mean, how can you be a trained actor at 11? Well, we found one. So that was an enormous relief. But you start this process, you don't know. You're like, oh man, how's this going to go? So we found one, and then we found, our 17-year-old, which was Elena, who was a little bit older, but she looks like she's 15. But and then we cast, we shot in Australia, and we had to cast all locally there because we're not a relatively small budget for this film, and it was there's a couple things. First of all, this is supposed to take place in Nebraska, and we're casting Australians. All right. I mean, not only do we have to shoot Australia and make it look like Nebraska, we had to grow like 50 acres of corn. And we had to make Australia look like, again, like Nebraska. And we had to make Australians look like Americans. So, we had to find a lot of non-actors because there's not a ton of them out there. And I mean, we were blessed with some very good child actors like Lila Brown and Rafferty. But we had a lot of non-actors too. And we had to like sort of, and the adults as well. And we had to like say, let's see if we can make them at least look like they're, farmers from Nebraska. So it was definitely a process. I mean, it could be exhausting at a certain point. We're just going through trying to find, no pun intended, needles in a haystack.
And Kate, are you originally from Australia or do you live in the States?
I'm actually Canadian.
Canadian. Oh, okay. So how was it like filming in Australia for you? That had to be a fun experience.
It was, and it wasn't because of COVID. We obviously couldn't like go and see all the things that you would normally see if you were going to Australia. Right. And it was a fun experience because, I had never filmed anything outside of, North America. And I thought, this is going to be a really cool experience. And it's also my biggest role. So it's like all piecing on together. But surprisingly, I wasn't as nervous about being away from home as I thought I was going to be. It was like I was, stepping away from myself and just focusing on this and not focusing on, how far away I was.
And Kurt, you kind of spoke to some of the difficulties with the casting, but with creating the monster for this, how did you want it to look? Because you mentioned like the first film, but how different or how creatively did you have process in creating the monster in Children of the Corn?
Well, as far as I know, the monster, the He Who Walks, has never been put on film before.
Right.
He's only been suggested. I haven't seen all the ones, but from what I've heard. So it was a part of a very long conversation that took place over weeks, if not months, with my producer, my partner Lucas Foster, about is the monster real? Because they're breathing in this corn fungus that grows on dying corn, and there's hallucinations going back. So there's part of the question is any of this actually happening? That's one question. So there's that. And then secondly, let's say the monster is real, we would say, and we would ask each other, we would say, there's a danger of over anthropomorphizing. There's if a creature is growing as an allergic reaction to, say, Monsanto's or Roundup or stuff that's put into the soil, what does it look like? What does that origin cause it to look like? And then we'd ask things like, we say, well, does it have 2 legs and 2 feet and hands? I mean, and why? By the way, why? Because it could be an octopus, it could be anything. So, and we had to, and there were a certain point where we said, listen, for the audience to relate, we need to anthropomorphize it to a certain degree. But I always sort of push back. I wanted to keep it as I always want to ask the question: if it has a mouth, what does it do with it? If it makes sounds, what are those sounds, and why does it make sounds? Does it have teeth? It has teeth. Why? Does it eat stuff? I mean, so we went through this process, and I think there are a lot of answers to how you could visualize He Who Walks, and ours is just one of them. But it's definitely one of the answers.
And this is for both of you. What are you looking forward to the most with Children of the Corn coming out this weekend? Like, what kind of responses are you looking forward to the most?
Well, good ones we would like. We would like people to enjoy the film and say, walk out and say, okay, that was my fellow. That was fun. And yeah, I mean, we want to, I think I'm going to speak for Kate, but we want to entertain people.
Yeah. I'm just excited for all of the hard work that all the cast and crew put into the film and how much of everybody of themselves they put into the film. And I'm excited for people to see how that comes across on screen.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been fun, and congratulations on the film.
Thanks very much. It was good to meet you. It's good to talk to you.
You too.